It began before sunrise, a low rumble, a sound like thunder trapped beneath the earth. Then came the shaking, violent and endless, splitting the streets of San Francisco and changing the city forever. More than a century later, scientists warn that the same fault line still sleeps underfoot, waiting for its next awakening. The 1906 San Francisco earthquake was not just one of the most destructive natural disasters in American history. It was the moment the United States truly realized the power of the ground beneath it. At 5:12 a.m. on April 18, 1906, the earth ruptured along the San Andreas Fault, unleashing a quake that modern estimates place at a magnitude of 7.9. The shaking lasted less than a minute, but what followed was far worse. A firestorm that devoured the city for 3 straight days. Nearly 3,000 people died, and over 80% of San Francisco was destroyed. But beyond the statistics lies a story of transformation, a comparison between the fragile city of 1906 and the complex engineered world of today. What's changed? How much safer are we really? And could history repeat itself in a modern era of skyscrapers, electric grids, and digital lives? In 1906, San Francisco was booming. It was the gateway to the Pacific, the crown jewel of the West Coast, filled with wooden houses, gas lamps, and a population that believed progress was permanent. But beneath its prosperity ran a fault that didn't care about ambition. When the San Andreas finally snapped, the rupture extended nearly 300 miles, from San Juan Bautista in the south to Cape Mendocino in the north. Streets twisted, railway tracks bent like ribbon, and entire neighborhoods shifted several feet sideways. Buildings weren't designed for seismic resistance. Most were made of unreinforced brick or wood, vulnerable to collapse. When the shaking began, walls fell instantly, but the true destruction came when fires broke out. Broken gas lines ignited, and with the water mains destroyed, firefighters had no way to fight the flames. Ironically, desperate crews resorted to dynamiting buildings to create fire breaks, only to spread the inferno further. By the time the fires burned out, San Francisco looked like a battlefield. In the chaos, survivors showed extraordinary resilience. Makeshift camps filled parks and beaches, with thousands living under tents for months. The US Army established relief efforts, distributing food and medical care. But reconstruction was brutal. The city had to rebuild from ashes without understanding what had gone wrong beneath its feet. Geology, at that time, was still in its infancy. The word tectonics wouldn't become common for decades. To most Americans, earthquakes were random acts of God, not predictable results of plate motion. Fast forward to today. Modern San Francisco stands tall again, literally. Glass towers reflect the bay. Bridges connect the skyline, and nearly 1 million residents live on the same fault that shattered their ancestors' city. But science has rewritten the story of risk. The San Andreas Fault is no longer a mystery. It's one of the most studied geological features in the world. We know that it moves about 2 inches per year, storing stress that will eventually be released. We know that earthquakes don't strike randomly, but cyclically. And we know that the next one, sometimes called the next 1906, is statistically overdue. So how would today's San Francisco fare compared to 1906? In some ways, we're far more prepared. Buildings are now designed to flex, not fight against seismic motion. Steel frames, base isolators, and damping systems allow modern structures to sway without collapsing. Skyscrapers like Salesforce Tower can endure intense shaking while remaining intact. The city's emergency infrastructure includes redundant water systems, backup power grids, and communication protocols designed to survive a disaster. The Shake Alert early warning system can detect a major quake and send alerts seconds before the strongest waves arrive, enough time to duck under a desk, stop trains, and shut down gas lines. Yet even with all that, experts admit that a 7.9 magnitude earthquake today would still be catastrophic. Why? Because modern life depends on systems that are interconnected and fragile. A rupture of the San Andreas Fault near the Bay Area could sever water lines, shut down electricity, and damage the BART transit tunnels beneath the bay. Fires could once again spread faster than firefighting capacity. In 1906, the economy lost billions in gold. In the 21st century, a similar quake could cost over $200 billion in property damage and trigger a financial crisis. Urban density is another factor. San Francisco today is far more crowded, with taller buildings, denser neighborhoods, and complex utilities running beneath every street. The same ground motion that toppled chimneys in 1906 could now rupture underground fiber optic cables, data centers, and gas pipelines serving millions across Northern California. The modern quake wouldn't just destroy, it would disconnect. Another crucial difference lies in communication. In 1906, news of the disaster took days to spread. Telegraph lines were down, and eyewitnesses had to travel hundreds of miles to report what had happened. Today, the first tremor would be captured on smartphones, live-streamed in real time across the world. That visibility brings both hope and chaos. Information can save lives, but misinformation can paralyze response. Social media can unite people or amplify fear. Still, what hasn't changed in over a century is human nature. After every quake, people search for patterns, blame, and meaning. The 1906 earthquake reshaped not only San Francisco, but also the science of geology. It led to the development of the elastic rebound theory, the foundation for modern seismology. That theory, born from studying the broken fences along the San Andreas, explained how stress builds up in the Earth's crust and releases in sudden jolts. Without that discovery, today's engineers would still be building blindly. But scientific knowledge doesn't always equal safety. Across California, thousands of older buildings remain unreinforced. Some were constructed before modern codes were enforced, their concrete brittle, their steel inadequate. Even now, experts estimate that at least 20,000 structures in the Bay Area could collapse in a major quake. Many are apartment complexes, hospitals or schools, places that house the most vulnerable. Then there's the issue of recovery. In 1906, rebuilding took years, but the population was smaller and the pace slower. People relied on neighbors and manual labor. Today's recovery would be more complicated. The supply chain is global. Construction materials are imported. Digital infrastructure would need restoring alongside physical buildings. Entire industries could be paralyzed overnight. So what lessons does the past hold for the present? The first is humility. The 1906 earthquake reminds us that nature always holds the final word. Despite all our sensors, maps, and models, no one can predict the exact time or location of the next quake. All we can do is prepare. The second is responsibility. Safety isn't just the job of scientists or governments, it's a collective duty. Cities must retrofit old structures, enforce codes strictly, and educate residents. Businesses must plan for continuity. Citizens must know evacuation routes and keep emergency kits ready. In 1906, people had no warning. Today, ignorance is a choice. The third is resilience. San Francisco's recovery after 1906 remains one of the most remarkable in history. Within 3 years, the city was rebuilt, stronger and grander than before. That same spirit still defines the Bay Area, innovation born from adversity. But resilience can't be improvised. It must be built into the DNA of a city long before disaster strikes. Comparing then and now reveals not just technological progress, but philosophical change. In 1906, disaster was seen as divine punishment or bad luck. Today, it's viewed as a scientific event, something measurable, understandable, even preventable in its worst effects. Yet that mindset can also breed complacency. When decades pass without catastrophe, people forget. They grow comfortable, confident, distracted, until the next jolt. Seismologists warn that the San Andreas fault is capable of another rupture of similar magnitude to 1906. Whether it happens tomorrow or in 50 years, the consequences will depend on choices made now. The city's resilience plan includes stricter codes, retrofitting programs, and early warning systems, but funding and political will often waver. Preparing for something invisible feels less urgent than fixing what's visible. But when the Earth moves, priorities shift instantly. Imagine for a moment the next San Francisco quake. The skyline trembles, glass shatters across Market Street, and the Bay Bridge sways like a ribbon in the wind. The power grid flickers out, plunging millions into darkness. Within minutes, emergency centers activate, helicopters rise, and global media floods with images of chaos. In those first hours, history repeats, but with cameras instead of diaries, algorithms instead of telegrams. And then slowly, the same story plays out. Fear, survival, solidarity. Neighbors rescue neighbors. First responders risk everything. the human instinct to rebuild returns. Because while technology evolves, the core of humanity remains unchanged, the determination to stand up even when the ground won't. So what separates 1906 from today isn't just time or technology, it's awareness. We know more, we can prepare better, and yet the question remains, will we? Because earthquakes don't kill people, unpreparedness does. If the San Francisco earthquake of 1906 was a warning, then the 21st century is the test. Will we learn from history, or will we let the ground teach us again the same painful lesson? The city by the bay stands on borrowed time, beautiful and fragile as ever. The same sun that rose over its ashes in 1906 still shines today, indifferent to what lies below. And someday, when the Earth decides to write the next chapter, San Francisco will once again find itself between ruin and rebirth. If you found this story eye-opening, don't wait for the next headline to remind you of what's at stake. Subscribe to Crisis Lens, like this video, and share it, to help others understand that the past isn't gone, it's waiting beneath our feet.